everyone, I'm going to show you how to make some smoked sous vide baby back ribs. It's really easy if you'll just follow these steps. First of all, what I have are 3 racks cut in half in 2 bags. Now, one little trick that I like to use that adds a really good flavor is marinating them in zesty Italian dressing. You don't have to vacuum seal them. You could actually just cut open the little plastic bag that they come in and just dump a whole bottle in for each bag, and then just set it in the refrigerator for at least 1 day. But the more days you do it, the better the flavor will be. I've done them up to a week, and they were awesome. These have been marinating for 2 days. As far as germs or microbials, the vinegar in the zesty Italian dressing pretty much kind of cooks the meat. So it's a very acidic environment that really cuts down and makes it really hard for any of those kind of germs to exist. So it's pretty safe to do this. Now, what I've done is I've vacuum sealed them in these 2 bags. So the next step is I'm going to take them out. I'm going to put a rub on them. I'm not paid by Head Country, but this is just a good everyday all-purpose rub. You can put whatever flavor that you like or whatever seasoning you like. Some people make their own, but I'm gonna take these out of this marinade, wipe them off, kind of pat them dry. Then I'm gonna put this Head Country seasoning, this rub on there. Then I'm gonna take them out to my smoker outside, and I'm gonna smoke them at 220 degrees for 2 hours. 220 degrees for 2 hours with pecan wood. Alright everybody, here I have the ribs in the smoker. There's a lot of good smokers out there. Traeger is a really good smoker. There's all kinds of smokers out there. I use a regular smoker that's been converted using propane. I've got a propane burner in here, and on the grill above that burner I have a big coffee can with a chunk of pecan wood foil on top with a bunch of holes poked in it. Now, the advantage to using propane is when propane is burned, an element of water is released. So whenever you cook with propane, it's always going to be, your meat is always going to be a little bit more tender, a little bit more juicy, as opposed to just straight dry heat. Another advantage of propane is once you know where to set that dial for the temperature that you need, you just put a little mark on it and just set it and forget it. Kind of like a Traeger, not as sophisticated though. But anyway, so the wood is coming out, the smoke is coming out, and I'm going to leave these on here for 2 hours, set at a temperature of 220. And once we're done with that, we're going to take them out and we're going to put them back in the bags that I use to marinate them, and we're going to sous vide them. One thing I forgot to mention, on these ribs, there's a little film underneath it. You want to remove that film because it'll just make it more tender. A trick to removing that film is just use a paper towel, kind of like a glove, and it'll just come right off. Alright, so I'm going to let these smoke a couple hours, and if I wanted to, I could just leave them in for another 4 hours and they would be just completely smoked. 6 hours is an ideal time at 220 to completely smoke these, and I've done that many times, and they're awesome. They're still great, but this time we're going to sous vide them just to get that little extra tenderness, and we'll see how they come out. All right. Okay, see you in 2 hours. Okay, here we have the ribs after 2 hours of smoking. They have a really nice pecan smell to them. And they've already started to almost cook. You can see the fat was it was starting to render. But now I'm going to put these back in those Ziploc bags. And then I'm going to put them in the sous vide. Okay, the next step in this video, as you can see, I have vacuum sealed the ribs back in their same bag that I took them out of. I do that to try not to just to save a little bit, because these bags are a little bit pricey. And I added a little bit of butter, and it just gives it a little bit more moistness. The sous vide that I'm using, it's I got this at Sam's, but you can also get it at Walmart. At the time that I bought it, I think it was $1.59, but I think it's cheaper now because I've had it for a little while. Now this what I use for my bath immersion, I can't take credit for this. I actually learned this from another YouTuber that I think it's a really good idea. It just basically it's a Coleman. It's called a party stacker, and it works really good for anything like ribs or brisket, anything that's long. And since it's insulated, I think it makes the sous vide a little more efficient. It doesn't have to work so hard, and it keeps its temperature really even. So basically, it's just that party stacker with a hole cut in it, and I removed the clip because I no longer need it. But so what I'm going to do, I have it set for 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 hours. So I'm going to put this in here and just let it run for 10 hours. And then I'll show you what it looks like when we come back, and I'll show you how I sear it. Alright? Okay. See you in 10 hours. Alright. Well, I overslept, and so these actually smoked for, I'm sorry, these were in the sous vide for 13 hours. 13 hours. I was really planning on just 10, but that's the nice thing about sous vide, is that if you go a little bit longer, it's really not a big deal. So what I'm gonna do now, what I did, a little trick, let me pull out a little bit. A little trick on these, when you take them out of the bath immersion, or I'm getting texts. When you take them out of the water, before you sear them, put them in the refrigerator for about 10 or 15 minutes. That's what I did. They were in about 15 minutes. They still feel warm, a little bit warm, you can still feel it, but you want to do that before you sear them, because it stops the cooking process. And when you go to sear them, and I've done this myself, I've learned this by trial and error, that if you put them straight into the broiler or into a pan and start to sear them, it's not so big a deal with ribs, but with other things like steaks, it'll continue to cook them internally, and it'll overcook them or dry. They won't really be overcooked, but they'll be drier. So a good little trick, just take them out of the water, put them in your refrigerator for about 10-15 minutes. If it's just a steak, like one steak in a bag, then maybe just 10 minutes. These are real meaty, so I went ahead and left them 15 minutes, and they still feel I can still feel their warmth. So the next step is I'm going to sear these by a broiler. Just going to stick them into the bottom of my oven, just like most ovens have a broiler. The broiler's at the bottom, and I'm just going to broil them, and then we'll see how they look. I do have a torch. I could torch them, but I don't have the little adapter that a lot of people have, the Searing adapter. The thing is $80. So I'm just gonna keep broiling them in my oven for right now, which works great. All right. Okay. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Okay. These have been broiled in my oven broiler on high for 10 minutes. So you can get a better look if you do use a torch, just a regular propane torch, even without that adapter, the Searing adapter. And but for me, I mean, this is good enough. But now for the moment of truth. Let me zoom in so you can get a little bit better. You can see how it's kind of, it looks decent, not bad. I wish you could smell what it smells like in here. The whole kitchen is filled with the smell of barbecue baby back ribs. It smells great. But now let's look at the inside of them. Perfectly done. And they're very juicy. There's just juice. I wish I could get this to zoom. Juice just squeezing out of this. Perfectly done. Let me try a little bit of it. Wow. It has a crisp taste. It has a light, crisp taste to it. It doesn't have a real heavy. It's hard to explain. When you go to a regular barbecue place and get some barbecue ribs, it just has a kind of a strong flavor to it, almost overpowering. This has a light, crisp, incredibly juicy taste to it. The Italian dressing really adds a crispness to it, and then the sous vide, being the way that it works, it never dries. You can dry out meat with a sous vide. It's hard to. It takes a long time to, but that plus the fact that they were smoked using propane, which also adds moisture. It's just a bunch of little things all added together that give you this crisp, light tasting, very delicious baby back ribs. But as you see how I did it, it's really easy. It just takes time. So just to recap, they were smoked for 2 hours at 220 degrees. Before that, they were marinated for 2 days with regular Kraft zesty Italian dressing. Zesty Italian, that's the key. But you can use your own Newman's or whatever you like. They have just the regular original the rub. So after they were the rub that they had was the head country, So they were marinated for 2 days in the refrigerator with the zesty Italian, dried off, head country rub all over them, then smoked at 220 degrees for 2 hours, taken out, put in the bags, and they were sous vide at 155 for 13 hours. Then broiled in a standard broiler at the bottom of your oven for 10 minutes. And that's it. And I guarantee that if you serve this to anyone, they're going to love it. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please at least give me a like. If you want, subscribe. I'm going to try to put some more cooking videos out each month. And I also do a lot of Mexican food. I'm going to do some of that in the future too, but I love barbecue. Alright, well, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.